All right, today we're going to pull back the curtain on the secret language that's pretty much the engine behind every website, every app, and every digital service you use. And that language, it's SQL. You know how your favorite online store somehow remembers your entire shopping history? Or how a streaming service knows exactly where you left off in that series you're binge watching? Well, it's not magic, right? It's all about data. And there's a very specific language you have to use to talk to that data.
And you guessed it, that language is SQL. Now, that stands for Structured Query Language, and you'll hear people say it both ways, either SQL or, maybe even more commonly, SQL. Honestly, either one is fine. The important thing is, it's the universal standard for talking with databases.
And hey, this isn't some brand new flashy tech. SQL's been the official standard since way back in the mid-'80s. It was recognized by both American and international standards organizations. So, its long history is a huge reason why it's so incredibly reliable and just everywhere today.
Okay, so what can you actually do with this language? What's the point? Well, just think of it like this. You have a direct line, a special key, to a massive, perfectly organized library of information.
The power of SQL really boils down to just a few core things. You can ask for specific info, that's called retrieving data. You can add new books to the shelves, that's inserting records. You can fix mistakes with update or get rid of old stuff with delete. You can even build whole new wings of the library by creating tables and databases from the ground up. It's pretty powerful stuff.
And here's what's so cool, especially if you're thinking about learning this stuff. While different database systems might have their own little quirks, think of them like dialects. They all speak the same core language. So once you learn the big commands like select, update, and delete, you can basically talk to almost any database in the world. It's a super transferable skill.
Okay, so if we're going to speak the language of data, we first have to understand, where does it live? How is it all organized? Well, the data lives inside something called a Relational Database Management System. Yeah, I know, it's a mouthful. We just call it an RDBMS for short. And it sounds super complicated, but it's really not. It's just the program that holds and organizes all that information in a really logical, structured way. And I bet you've seen some of these names floating around before. Things like MySQL or MS SQL Server, Oracle, even Microsoft Access. All of these are just different types of an RDBMS. They're the software engines, and SQL is the language we use to talk to them. And here's the most important thing to get. Inside any of these super powerful systems, all that crazy complex data is stored in a surprisingly simple structure. It all comes down to one thing: tables. So what's a table? Honestly, it's just a collection of related info, all organized into neat columns and rows. It looks a lot like a spreadsheet, right? So take this customers table, for example. We've got columns for the customer ID, their name, a contact, and their country. Simple as that. All right, so we've seen the structure. Now let's put the language to work. Let's take a look under the hood and see what a real SQL command actually looks like in action. So this right here, this is one of the most common commands you'll ever see in SQL. And look how much it reads like plain English. It's literally telling the database, select everything from the customers table. That little asterisk, by the way, is just shorthand for all columns. Simple, right? Now this command gets you everything. But the real magic of SQL is when you get specific, like asking for only the customers from Mexico, for example. That's where the true power really kicks in. And boom, here's the result. After we run that simple command, the database sends back the entire table, exactly like we asked. See that? We just executed a query and retrieved our data. It's that direct, that simple.
Okay, to really get what's going on here, let's break this table down. Each one of these horizontal rows, that's called a record. You can think of it as a complete file for one single item. So for customer ID number 1, the record has their name, their contact, and their country. It's the whole story for that one customer.
And then you have the columns. Each vertical column is called a field. This represents one specific type of information for every single record. So see the country column? It holds the country for all our customers. So you've got the rows and the columns working together to create this perfectly organized grid of data. See how that works?
Okay, so let's put all the pieces together. We have the language, which is SQL. We have the structure it lives in, the RDBMS. So how does this actually come together to power a real website you'd use every day?
Well, building a modern data-driven website is kind of like following a recipe. First, you need your RDBMS program, right? Something like MySQL to actually store everything. Then you need a server-side language, maybe like PHP, to do all the thinking on the back end.
Then, and here's our part, you need SQL to ask the database for the exact data you want. And finally, you use good old HTML and CSS to make it all look nice for the person using the site. See? SQL is that absolutely crucial ingredient that connects the raw data to the final web page.
So when you really think about it, SQL isn't just about code. It's the ability to ask questions, really specific questions, of massive amounts of data and get clear answers back. It's the bridge that takes us from just having tons of information to having actual, useful insights. So the real question is, now that you know the language of data, what questions are you going to ask?